opportunity. Lewis is a neuroimaging and AI research officer at Dementias Platform UK. He developed the infrastructure of the data portal to support the sharing and analysis of neuroimaging and genomics data. And he leads a research team on the development of responsible AI in neuroscience. Lewis is going to talk about enabling open and reproducible science in AI dementia research. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. So since a lot of today's sessions focus around AI research, I thought today I'd talk about open and reproducible science in AI research and how Deep UK is helping to enable that. So before you can even train an AI model, you first need access to data. And so there's many challenges and complexities to the sharing of sensitive healthcare data for other people to be able to use in their research. So typically in cohort studies, people collect things like neuroimaging, genomics, digital biomarkers, or sometimes just questionnaire data. But because of the nature of this data, it can be highly sensitive, and there's lots of issues around patient privacy. But to be able to enable open science, we really need to find ways to be able to share this data for other people to utilize. And so this is kind of why Deep UK was set up. So we have the data portal, which is essentially a trusted research environment. And this is based on the 5 safes. So we ensure that all researchers are approved and certified, that any projects that take place are within the public benefit, that the analysis is done within safe and secure settings, that the data is anonymized so that patients can't be identified, and that the outputs are checked to see if they're safe. And so this process looks a bit like this within Deep UK, where universities or memory clinics will deposit their data within our secure research environment. Researchers will then access that through sort of secure virtual desktops where they can run their analysis, do their research on this safe anonymized data. And then if they want to request files out, like files, figures and graphs, then that goes to 2 data analysts to review to ensure that there's nothing disclosive within that data, to ensure that it is safe for release. And so it's because of the safety and security of this platform that we've really grown over the past few years, to the point now where we have over 60 cohort datasets for researchers to access. And we have over 1,000 researchers across the world who have utilized this data in their research projects. So it's a really great resource for researchers to be able to develop AI models on, because we have such a wealth of datasets covering a range of different modalities of data. And over the past couple of years, we've really seen a rise in applications for the development of AI models utilizing our data, especially on some of our more multimodal data. And one of our biggest collections of data requested for AI models is our neuroimaging data. So we have around 20 imaging cohorts that we facilitate access to at the moment within the data portal, with lots of different scan types. And so we've had to develop a series of processes to be able to ensure that we can share this data safely to researchers, and so that they have research-ready data to work on. So that involves things like anonymizing that data, ensuring that the scans are defaced, that we standardize that data to bids, and that we also process that data to give researchers research-ready data. And so something like standardization is really important and crucial to reproducibility in research. So for something like neuroimaging, we ensure that all of our data sets are standardized to bids. So by utilizing common standardized frameworks, it enables this data to work with existing workflows and processing pipelines to be able to use that data and to be able to reproduce results. We also ensure that all of our cohort datasets are well documented to ensure that people know how these datasets were collected, what the characteristics are, what assessments are performed, and how that data is structured, so that researchers can reuse this data and use it in confidence, knowing how that data was collected and how they can use it in their research. But there's a big problem with open and reproducible science in AI research. So that sort of covers the data side. But actually, allowing open AI is a really difficult area. And so one of the main challenges is the fact that, especially in neuroimaging, there's only really 2 openly available data sets which are typically used in AI research. So you'll see a lot of AI models which are published typically use either ADNI and OASIS. And so these have been great data sets because they're openly accessible, and it's allowed a lot of AI research to take place because of that. But it also means that the AI models developed are restricted to these data sets and to these populations. So it means that the AI models are often not able to be reproduced in other data sets, and that they can't really be validated in real-world sort of memory clinic sites either. But Deep UK sort of alleviates this problem by enabling access to all of these different cohort datasets within our secure research environment. So as I said, we have 60 cohort datasets, and we also have the addition of things like QMC, which was specifically collecting neuroimaging data to validate AI models on real-world clinical data. So this is really beneficial data to be able to train, develop, and validate AI models on. And it's not just the UK as well where we have this data. One of our biggest cohorts is actually in France, Memento, which collected lots of different modalities of data over 5 years among the university-based memory clinics. And so being able to test and reproduce models in different population datasets is really important and crucial. Of course, as well, there's Dementias Platform Australia, which brings together the Australian cohorts and facilitates access to more wider population datasets. And so we make sure that all of our datasets adhere to the FAIR framework to ensure that we can share these datasets. So that's making sure that it's findable, so that's through our data discovery tools, that it's accessible, so through our secure research environment for people to easily use, and that it's interoperable, so things like standardization to ensure that that data can work amongst different workflows and processes, and that that data is reusable, so by providing sufficient documentation and metadata to ensure that that data can be reused in further research. But we can take this FAIR framework one step further for AI models to ensure that they are also fair, that they are findable through a centralized repository, that they're accessible with clear permissions, and that they're interoperable, and of course reusable by providing clear documentation on the architecture of those models, how they're trained, what the code is, and with clear versioning as well to really enhance that ability to be able to reproduce and use these models in different datasets. So something like GitHub is a perfect example of this, to be able to share AI models. It provides that centralized repository for people to go and publish their AI models on, for other people to access. And this is sometimes often required by funders or journals for when you do AI research to also publish your AI model alongside that. And so it's really important to document the sort of requirements and dependencies for running that AI model, the description of how it works, details of any pre-processing which is involved on that data to be able to train that model, and how you yourself can train, validate, and make predictions off of that AI model. So this is really beneficial to enable the sharing of AI models. But there's a huge problem with reproducibility and OpenAI versus protecting patient privacy, especially in these large cohort datasets which contain a lot of sensitive healthcare data. And so this is because these AI models are vulnerable to a range of different attacks, different privacy attacks. So this can be like reconstruction attacks, where you can actually reconstruct the original training data used in that model, or inference attacks, where you can infer membership or attributes of individuals through those AI models. And there's certain vulnerabilities as well, such as memorization, so if your model is overfitting, or things like explainability, which can enhance these attacks and make them easier to perform. Even something as simple as an instance-based model, such as a SVM model, is really susceptible to these kinds of attacks because it actually contains the data itself within the architecture. So if you're sharing and publishing an instance-based model, you're actually sharing the data itself. So it's really important to ensure that the data is kept private and secure. And so this is why we were funded by DARE UK to bring together members of the public, researchers, and data providers to assess these risks and concerns in AI model research, and to develop recommendations and guidelines for the safe development of AI on sensitive healthcare data so that we can enable open and reproducible science on AI models. And so we identified a number of different ways to protect patient privacy through different privacy-observing techniques. So things like homomorphic encryption or differential privacy at the training stage, or restrictions at the deployment sharing stage as well. And so we've put together these recommendations to move forward on how we can enable that safe development of AI so that they can be published on things like GitHub and be reproduced in other data sets. So that includes ensuring that researchers have the training necessary to be able to sufficiently implement these privacy-observing techniques. It involves having public engagement at the decision process to ensure that these models are being developed within the public benefit. And then depending on the release scenario of those models, where it's being released to, how it's being shared, we would then run our own attacks on these models and evaluate these models to ensure that they are safe and private and can be published outside of secure research environments. And so through these recommendations and guidelines and the ways that we're helping researchers, we're really helping to enable AI models to be reproduced and to be openly published on things like GitHub. Thank you everyone for listening, and I'm happy to take any questions.
And please do submit questions if you have any. In terms of the, you touched upon the some of the issues around potentially a sort of restrictive lack of diversity, I suppose, on the products from AI. This is quite a sort of topical thing from an EDI perspective. How does DP UK ensure that there's a diverse sort of set of data that AI models can be derived from?
Yeah, exactly. So we're really looking at gaining more international data sets to help in that. Because when you're developing AI models, you really need to make sure that they're robust and take into account all these different ethnic differences and population differences. And so we have, more international population data sets, as I said, like in France or South Korea. And Dementias Platform Australia also has more data sets. But we're really looking at expanding that network of cohorts to include more international data to be able to develop robust AI models on. But we're also looking at things like being able to generate synthetic data to help in that as well. That could be a really beneficial resource to be able to improve robustness in AI models.
Thank you. Got one question. Different cohorts house data on different platforms. How can we combine imaging from DP UK, LONI, if analyses need to be in individual research environments?
Yeah, so often if you have access to data which is sort of downloaded on your own computer, you can bring that into the portal and combine it with our data sets. Or we offer federated learning solutions as well, where we can federate between different trusted research environments and secure environments to be able to enable access to lots of those different data sets in one place.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.